Hi, my name is Koku, blackfilm.com, and I'm here with Alison Klayman, Director of Unfinished Business, the WNBA documentary, which is out actually now. You can see it in cinemas, ESPN2, and Amazon May 13th and 14th. Guys, it's just everywhere. Just figure it out wherever you're located. Alison, how are you doing today? I'm just trying to get my jumbled words together.
Oh, I'm great. I'm so excited to be talking with you, and I'm so excited that the movie's in theaters today. It's really a big day.
I'm very excited about that. I'm excited to be a New Yorker because I can go to Brooklyn and actually see the movie with everybody and see it in real time with everyone as well. But I'm thankful that you guys gave me the screener.
Yes, and that it'll be on Amazon later, which means that anyone can watch it. We
Absolutely.
really wanted a low bar to entry. You know what I mean? We want as many people to see it as possible.
Absolutely. I just wanted to know, what even motivated you to focus on the WNBA? I have so many questions, but I just want to start with, and I'll start with asking some pretty simplistic questions. But with the WNBA, right? There's always some criticism, like the WNBA versus the NBA, like who's watching, why does anybody care, so forth. I got the jersey that Kobe had on.
I mean, I love basketball, and that means I love the WNBA. I mean, I grew up kind of with it. I remember when the league first started, and I was a kid who loved playing basketball and thought that this was the women have arrived, we have arrived. This is our time, is very much how they marketed it. And then I think everything you just said is why I really wanted to make a film, which is because in the intervening years between then and now, there was a lot more downs than, we might have expected in those early years where it was so huge and so exciting. And then now we're at this point where it's finally poised, I think, to be bigger than ever. Because of societal changes, because of 25 years of growth within a league. It takes time to kind of build a base, but the sky's the limit now. So I was really excited to tell the story, first just from a fan and love perspective, but then also kind of as a mission, because I want people to understand this story, and then I have no doubt that they'll fall in love with it and they'll want to be watching and coming to games.
I want to show you how authentic that I am to this actual interview, and I'm not playing games with you.
Yes.
And so I want to show you what I have in my back pocket here.
That's right.
And no games is being played. I got the official joint.
Yeah, and think about how iconic that is, and we do associate it with people like Kobe wearing it, and
Kobe rocked the jersey. Yes.
Yeah, and he was such a champion for women's basketball.
So, you focused on the New York Liberty, and they kicked off the very first game, and it's very interesting because as was focused in the documentary, that first game was against the Los Angeles Sparks. So it was a sort of an East Coast, West Coast rivalry. Do you want to talk more about that, what that felt like when you were gathering that information and talking about what the energy was like in the room?
Yeah, I mean, interviewing some of the, original New York Liberty, starters, and to realize Kim Hampton, who's going to be at the Q&A on Saturday at BAM, she was at the tip off, she was the center who was, there for the very start of this league. Watching the game and all of the excitement of that, and sort of how nervous the players were too. It was really exciting to look back at it, knowing that the league survived and is poised to, keep thriving and growing. I really felt like it was interesting to go back to the emotional space where these women were. Because at the time, they probably just had to give really rah kind of interviews,
right.
You know what I mean? Because it was this big moment. But to talk to people when they're looking back 25 years later and hear them talk about the butterflies, the nerves, the fans who were crying to them, telling them thank you. It's such an emotional thing, which is why I felt like the film needed to have both the past and present in it, because the past just has so much drama.
I mean, you have these names like Rebecca Lobo and Cheryl Swoops as well. These people, they're still names that we talk about to this day. They could hoop, and I think it's wonderful that we can talk about we often talk about the NBA. We know about men's hoops and we talk about collegiate hoops and everything. But I think that when we talk about the WNBA, I think when people actually watch the game, it may not be at the same pace. It's a little different than the men's game, but it's still so entertaining and so good. These women can really ball.
Totally. And I feel like because, some of these players that are, the young players now have grown up with the WNBA always existing, and with more and more kind of parity in youth sports and college sports. I think there's a lot of respect between the men and women in the NBA and the WNBA. And I also think that, there's a sort of fundamentals forward basketball that's played in the WNBA that in some ways it feels like the NBA has kind of followed, as opposed to leading on. And the idea of people being able to play really flexible, people being able to, shoot, 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5. I mean, Han Shu can hit a 3-pointer, I think there's a lot of the basketball feels like you're watching it. It's different, but it itself is a really good product.
I think that's a great point. And I think that, like you said, that in a way that women play like a more clean game, if that's the sort of a way to say it. Like you said, so it's like, and I ain't trying to call no names out, but we're not stomping on chests. We're not doing anything like that. We're not.
Exactly. It's not heated. I mean, it was really, lots of love on the year that I was following the Liberty, but sometimes it can get heated.
It can get, no, for sure. I mean, because it's still competitive. I mean, I actually I wanted to ask you, because now all of a sudden, actually now there's an interest in women's hoops because we had that interesting rivalry between like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, which for them, they were just playing the game. They were just hooping. And everybody sort of turned it into something that I really truly don't think that it wasn't that, but of course it makes it good for media. But that interest from the collegiate side, I'm kind of curious to hear from your point of view, like now, because they're getting the money from college, like this name, image, and likeness deals that you can get as a collegiate player, it might be like, well, you can stall out. Like, I don't need to be in the WNBA quite. I might just wait out. Like, I'm eligible, but maybe I want to stay in school because I might make so. I want to talk about the wage disparity, and when do you think that gap will be closed, or at least get a little closer, if at all?
Yeah, I think it is going to take time, but we're seeing really, really positive changes already. We're already living in a world where those positive changes exist. So I'm very, very hopeful. I think you're totally right. The like NIL opportunities for college players right now, changes things, and that we're already changing because players came in with social media followings, like that maybe even dwarfed what the teams they were joining had. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's fair. Yeah.
I think that's something. And then I think the reason it's not a straight one-to-one conversion on that is, again, a structural thing with the WNBA. For one, there's 144 spots. There's 12 teams times 12 roster spots. And if you have all these stars coming out, even, some weight, but inevitably you're going to have all these people come out in the draft and then they get waived because like the teams can't absorb them, which is why if you get into the WNBA, you'll quickly be initiated into the expansion conversation, and they talk about that. And I think it's dumb when, the haters talk about, oh, well, you guys can't even pay for it now. So why would you blah, blah, blah. The point is sometimes you have to, actually not sometimes, all the time, you have to invest in order for things to grow and thrive. That's how men's sports get ahead. That's also, same thing with coverage and storytelling. That's what gets fans. That's what makes people believe in, oh, there's a rivalry. Oh, this player has a really interesting story.
Good point.
And so I think it's less about, oh, this league needs to make a certain amount of dollars, which like I could talk about that too, but like, to justify having these things. No, it's always the other way around. And it's been the other way around for men too. People operate at a loss and the teams invest, the networks invest. And so I think that's the moment where we're at. We have a new crop of owners who are like trying to get around the rules to spend more money on their teams. And if you know the history of the WNBA, that's a new story, And I think that's a reason to be really excited about where things are going to go. And you talk about people coming from college and what their opportunities are. Look at the number 1 draft pick, Aaliyah Boston, like announced her shoe deal, a couple days ago, or maybe it's not a shoe deal. It's like, I think it was Adidas, but like her sponsorship with Adidas, and they put out a video.
Because Cheryl Swoops actually had a shoe, as I recall.
Oh, yeah. And my entire middle school basketball team and high school basketball team, I think we all bought the Air Swoops,
I remember the Swoops. Yes. I remember as a kid. I remember the Air Swoops.
And now there's more and more. I mean, our own New York Liberty, Brianna Stewart has a shoe and Sabrina has a shoe. But the idea that this is so new is, there was Cheryl and then how long till there were more. So I feel like we're in this era where people recognize that there's an upside and there's a deficit between what, the existing fan base and what it could be. And so everyone's kind of chasing that.
Sure. I mean, I know even on in the documentary, and just it's just facts. Like a lot of women would end up playing overseas. So Italy, Spain, and they just it was kind of a means to an end. So the WNBA wasn't as enticing. I do believe, like you said, now with the changes, it does feel good to stay home. But I wonder, in asking that question, I'm wondering about, like, it's easier to say that when you get picked by a team in a larger market. So yes, I can play for New York. Yes, I can play for Chicago. Yes, I can play for LA. When we were getting a smaller market, when it's a small market when you're talking about the NBA, and the WNBA, it's even smaller than that. So I'm just wondering what the motivation is to stay the course and continue to play with, when you maybe just aren't seeing the fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why everybody is kind of motivated to grow the league, for their own sake. And I think why the WNBA Players Association,
Yes.
Their players union is a real leader and kind of, tries to push the league in the ways both that'll make their lives better, but also part of that is just growing the whole business.
Sure.
I mean, people play abroad kind of because between the two salaries, then you have like a good salary,
Right. You can make it work.
Yeah. And I had some players, players today, young people today who are like, can see the positive side of, like, it's like, it is cool to see the world and I love basketball. So you play all year round, but fundamentally it's like, they don't want to miss holidays with their family.
We want to be home. I think, we all do, no
They
matter
don't
what the
want to
money.
live somewhere that like they might feel like pretty alienated from in some cases too, So I think it's also, as you get older, maybe when you're young, it's kind of fun, but then when you realize this is going to be my whole like career, they just never have days off. Like trying to film with these women, like the fact that we got these beautiful master interviews that we did, like on Barclays floor, I feel like
Right.
one of the most, you wouldn't think, but it's one of the most impressive pieces of producing I've like seen, because these players, once their season's done, in our case, if you make, either you make the playoffs or once you get knocked out of the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, whatever the thing is that stops your season, it's like they have exit interviews and everybody scatters right away. So trying to figure out when in this like tightly packed season you could like sit people down for an interview was like kind of crazy. And then it's done and people are all going abroad, going home to pack to go abroad. It's such a whirlwind. And then when the season starts, everybody's coming back from there. So you really can appreciate how nuts their schedule is.
But I'm also curious, like, obviously, like, there's, the women that are like kind of like the Kevin Durant of the WNBA. And I hate to use a man name to sort of like, I don't want to be that person, but I just did it.
You could just call it the MNBA. Just to even the
exactly. But it's like, there's the women that are able to say, like, okay, I got to deal with Spain. But then there's some women that, because like, some people like can work a corporate job and make the same amount of money for what women are doing in WNBA. So some women are actually going probably and just like working, like, let's say a 9 to 5 during that. And that absolutely sounds completely crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because of the high level of entertainment and also the high level of dedication that's required to play on this high level. So to think that a person that could even be like Olympic ready, that a person could have to think like, I got to get a part-time job doing this, or go to like a staffing agency. Like, I wonder what the psyche, like what goes on in the mind of a person like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough because on the one hand, like, you see yourself as you should, which is like an elite world-class athlete. And I just think people know, I think it's more that you have to turn off the like side of your brain that's like, does this mean that like I'm being so undervalued by society? I think that's the thing. You just can't let that get you down, because the fact of the matter is the players know how much the game means to the fans, to young girls who look up to them, to older women who are like, man, you're embodying the opportunity I wish I had. Like, we're still in that stage of the WNBA. I do think there will be a day where the money will be more, the broadcast deal that gets renegotiated, years at a time. With that coming up, that's another opportunity to, check with the marketplace and be like, well, what is the real value here, and to try to get more money that's like into the system, and also to make the games more available to fans. Because I feel like even when I was following it, I am following it really closely, but once I started and you realize, oh, like which channel is it on today, which like app,
right, that's a good point.
I think when I remember in the early days, like it would just be on, like it was on one of like 2 or 3 networks that they had deals with, ESPN, I forget if it was like ABC or CBS, Lifetime, even Lifetime, which is really weird that they aired it on Lifetime. And
Lifetime was airing I didn't know.
In the early years, which I think shows what they like.
That's like obnoxiously girly, like
right. It's like I really think that the league started with a bang and then missed a lot of opportunity to grow, to like build off of that, because they handled things so poorly at the start. But I think right now there's so much more, like I said, there's so much more interest in it and seeing it thrive, and people who want to put in the money. And I really feel like if people check out this film, like, again, you just, it makes everyone who watches it, they're just like, I need to come to games if they don't already.
You feel like why wasn't I present? It just kind of feels bad, because again, when you watch these women actually play the game, it's not like some, kind of like the lingerie, like kind of, like a put on for guys kind of thing. These are women who are actually fundamentally like stars and actual, like, really dedicated to the game. And so I can absolutely respect that. I'm like, yo, these girls can play again. And the question is always like, could these women play in the NBA? People always say that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe some could, but also I feel like it's not, I don't know. Like, I feel like the obsession, I feel like what would it be like in the NBA is one question, but the problem is the world is just filled with reply guys who act as if they could beat these players, and that's just a joke, like
it's true.
it's just a joke.
Even somebody that was just like, let's just say like the lowest ranked performer in the WNBA or the NBA, whatever the case may be, that person is still an elite class of person where you can't just take them. I was on a message board once, and I'm glad I can say this somewhere, but I was on a message board once, and this guy was saying that his YMCA rec league was so good that he truly believed that he could take on, let's just say, like the worst ranked NBA team.
Okay, you can.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm in my mind, I'm like, okay, so the best star wide right there on Bedford and Monroe. You think you guys can take on an NBA team? But it's that mentality, and I feel like, just that just saying that, but it's also that mentality and saying that about women. People just and now you're starting to see a lot of like video footage of like there's a particular girl, I don't know her name. I wish I could think of her name right now, but there's a girl that puts out footage where she'll like just go like, hey guys, do you mind if I just shoot a little bit with you guys? And she'll just wreck the whole room. Like, she's just shooting threes. She's like Steph Curry with the shot, boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's hilarious because they just underestimating her. Like, oh, she's just a girl. She's just a girl.
Totally. And I mean, I'm never trying to be like I'm on any level, but I like when I played basketball, like, co-ed intramural or like pickup games, that's kind of always the thing. And I kind of love the underestimation is like a real tool, because it goes from, someone looks really annoyed that they're guarding you, and you can clearly see physically they're like, the bottom ranked player on the court. And then the best moment is the moment in the game where someone says, hey, who's covering the girl? Like when you start to hit the shots and they're like, you're like, okay, leave me alone if you want. I'll just keep scoring. I mean, I think that that's something that anybody who plays, street ball, in that, like, I feel like every girl has that story if they played like that, and I'm not saying that, whether that needs to change, but just respecting the entertainment value and the effort and the athleticism and the fun of the league itself. I honestly feel like you don't need to change those people's minds. You just need to invite new people in who are open-minded, and that's all it's going to take.
That's great. Yeah, listen to people. Yeah, exactly. That's great. So then going back to Unfinished Business, what do you want people to take away from the film?
I mean, honestly, it is, made as an independent film that is not, it's not a piece of, marketing, but I do feel like I want people to leave and be like, I had fun and I want to be a fan, because I think that is what will transform it. It's not about making people's minds change about, gender and race and sexuality in America. It's just like, this is basketball. Don't think that this is lesser than, like, come have fun and, see these people for who they are, and, watch a game, come to a game. If you're in one of those cities, which if you're in New York, like, come to Barclays, the tickets aren't that expensive. You can really just walk up. It's such a fun time.
Yeah, no, I've been to the Barclays. I've actually sat floor seats.
Hey, you go back after that, right?
The Barclays, no, it's an amazing experience, and to be in New York and to be able to say I've done that, like, that's historic, especially a Brooklyn, New Yorker. So I've definitely done that. I definitely do want to support the team, but I thank you so much for your time, and I thank you for focusing on this and for your passion in basketball. I have to say this, as I was watching this documentary, I was thinking to myself, like, as a kid, they used to always like try to, because I'm 6 feet tall, right? I'm tall.
Oh, you never know when you meet people on, like, a video chat.
You never know.
So you play basketball then?
So let me tell you my story. Let me tell you, like, hold on now. I got a couple of sentences I'd about to follow. So, so my brother could hoop crazy. Like, my brother could hoop, like, he definitely was ready. But they would see me, they'd be like, yo, like, and they would try to, like, I got walked on every time. They were like, the coaches would be like, you're trash. Like, why can't you play like your brother? And I'm like, I never asked to play, but I never had a motivation to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have anybody to look up to. Like, I didn't know I could, like, aspire to do a thing. So I'm just thinking, if I was a kid right now, and the WNBA is where it is right now, and even like a collegiate hoops to the WNBA, I absolutely think I would have focused, and we'd be telling a different story, where I'd be sitting next to you, and we'd be
no, you would be in the trailer for the hometown star, like, for
but right now it's like, back to you, Bob.
Well, and that's the thing too, to be totally honest, like, I do feel like part of what's gonna lift this league up is on, like, people like us, which is why I was so excited. It's about storytelling around sports. Why do we care about sports at all? Like, in any sports. And it's because there's, like, storytelling around it. You get into the rivalries, you get into are they gonna win? Are they gonna lose? The history of the players. Like, isn't that, besides watching the athleticism,
get into the background, everything.
Yeah, that's why you care. And you have ESPN. I saw yesterday, because I watched Good Morning America, because like they did a segment about the film, which was very cool. But they announced, they were like, the next year's NFL schedule is being announced today. So there's going to be a 2-hour special on ESPN to talk about to dissect the schedule that's been announced. And I'm just saying, the facts are that of all the sports coverage, which includes, all that, like, ESPN hours, it's right now, I think we're at 5% of all sports coverage is about women's sports. And so you think about, like, why do we not, like, look down or, like, not value it? It's because we really need the same level of storytelling around, because that's all it is. It has nothing to do with the inherent, like, athleticism of the men versus the women. It's completely the industry all around it. So I feel like, spotlighting it, caring about it is a big part of what's going to change it.
Oh, you're right. Just caring. You're right. Because it's nothing is lacking in terms of the actual fundamentals and the actual game. Nothing is lacking. So you're right. Just actually, I'm glad you put it that way. Caring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. So nice to chat.
It was so nice to chat. Once again, my name is Koku with blackfilm.com, and I'm here with Alison Klayman. She's the director of Unfinished Business. Documentary is out now. It's out in Brooklyn right now. If you're able to see it at BAM, if you don't, you'll be able to see it at ESPN2 and also Amazon. It'll be premiering May 13th. And it's great, man. It reminds you of why we love this game so much and why we should actually respect these women players just as much as we. And you know, I want to say shout out too, because wasn't it Kyrie that paid the salaries during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Just things like that are quietly sort of just, you know, no one's talking about it, you know. There's always people saying like, oh, nobody's talking about this thing, but people are always talking about the thing. But sometimes nobody's talking about the thing. And I just want to, you know, I want to respect the people that actually do respect the game. You know, I see that. And there are NBA players that stand with you guys in this mission to amplify the WNBA players and make sure that they're seen, because the girls can hoop.
Yeah.
And they will, you know, some of you guys are trash on the lawn. Don't play. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Take care. If you want to see more content like this on blackfilm.com, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.